You said the system fears the black male vote. Break that down for us.
Well, the thing of it is, right now, we've been ostracized and neutralized in our communities, especially when it comes to talking about how votes work. Because men, specifically black men, which are the most masculine men on the planet, we don't operate from our feelings. Representation and black girl magic is not enough to move the needle for us to be looking for people to represent us in our government, both locally and on a national level. But what we've been fed is a steady diet of indoctrination of vote blue no matter who, and everybody bad, and orange man bad, and we got to get things done. And the truth of the matter is, when black men start to wake up and say, you know what, we're going to go independent, or we're going to see what the other side has to offer, then all of a sudden, people start panicking. That's why they sent Barack Obama, from down from on high, wherever the hell he was, and he went to Chicago saying, oh, you brothers are misogynists because you don't want to vote for a woman. And I'm like, well, were we misogynists when we voted for you over Hillary Clinton? Like, it's always an emotional situation. It's never no, we're going to do this. And for the past 60 years, black people have voted at a 90% clip for Democrats and don't have anything to show for it. Our neighborhoods are trash. Our schools are even worse. Our society is still the most disjointed, but it's the most pilfered in America. And it's not enough to have somebody, go to a HBCU or talk sassy or had their lashes on and do Kendrick Lamar dance skits. We need something tangible for our vote, and we're saying no more.
We want tangibles. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I don't. They all the same to me. Um, Now, what I will say is that because I am conservative and I'm from down south, a lot of the policies that the red are pushing align more with my values. Like I don't believe in pushing LGBTQ, the trans. I don't believe in illegal immigrants coming in and taking our resources and things of that nature. But of course, black men have always been put on a chopping block. They have always been the ones to fear, the one to try to sway public opinion. Just like he said, nobody had any problem with choosing Obama over Hillary. But as soon as we chose Trump over whatever her name is, Kamala, then it was all men are misogynistic. They don't like black women. They don't like us. They're voting against our interests. And it's like, no, we didn't vote at all. We were like, we don't want the right or the left. We're not voting until you guys give us something to vote for. And instead of the Democrats doing that, they shutting down the government and then blaming the Republicans. So
I do agree with the stance that I think both parties they're in bed with each other. So any policies that are made or anytime election time, both sides promises things that they don't follow through on. And the divisiveness is intentional for both sides to get votes. That's the bottom line. And voting red or blue, at the end of the day, if you just look at the stats, there hasn't been any kind of legislation that has been created that specifically helps blacks directly. Everything is typically indirectly. You might get scooped up in it and you benefit, but for the most part, nobody's particularly looking out for us.
I feel that they look at, black men as a threat. And again, they will never give us anything for us. I think this is where I feel we need to detach, remove, and build our own for our people. And yeah, and they'll put anything out there to make it seem like it's something that is not, to place a block, if that makes sense, to from us evolving and thriving and breaking mental and emotional chains.
If both parties are trash, does that mean black men should stop voting altogether?
I don't think so, but what I do think is that they need to get their e- economic prowess together because money is what talks. So if you don't have any leverage in terms, and I mean, if you look at the amount of money that we spend as a group, that there is a lot of leverage to be had in order to get the things that we need. But the fact that our focus isn't on that as a group, we'll never have the leverage that we need. So our vote doesn't ever really matter
Hmm.
in that regard.
Okay.
You can vote who you want, but if you ain't got money to push through what you need, then at the end of the day, are you getting what you need?
I think a lot of us as Black people are just uneducated on politics. It's more so like we go for the global trickery. And as far as me being a teacher inside Chicago Public Schools for 20 years, one of the problems that we had is that we don't have enough parental involvement. And that affects the LSC and the PTA. The LSCs are responsible for like the academic plans, the budgeting, the resource allocation, principal evaluation, selection. So when we don't have the community support, then the stakeholders who are more powerful than us, they control what happens with the schools. And so we normally push back after the decisions have been made, but we're not at the table while they're being made. And I think that that just spills over as well. A lot of us do not know our city managers, our department heads, our municipal operations. These are the people who create and enforce our laws, who manage our budgets, our essential services, as far as the operation and the function of our city. So I know we love to talk about the Democrat and the Republican sides and all of that. That's the bigger envelope. The umbrella that we're under right now is exactly what I was talking about, because those affect us daily. And we're not involved in those at all. So to me, again, this is just my opinion. We have some people that are educated. We don't have enough people. And if we're, again, wanting to see some things change, like what Ms. Sakin was saying, that's going back to what Claude Anderson has been talking about for decades. We don't have any political power. We don't have any educational type of power. We don't have any economical power. And there's like two other levels of power that he was speaking about that we don't have any control in. So therefore, we're kind of just sitting here, sitting ducks, right? And we kind of wait for people to tell us what to do, and then we respond. So like I say, until we educate ourselves and really put ourselves in those powers of position, we're not going to see a transition. We're just going to keep having conversations.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with Miss Pearl to a certain extent. The problem is that it's especially when it comes to densely populated black areas like Chicago, New York, LA, Philadelphia, Atlanta. What tends to happen is this is a very long play that's been happening for well over 100 years now. If you look at what Rockefeller set up with what we now have in our education system, it is akin to two things: factory workers and legal 13th Amendment enslavement, which is the prison system. So you cannot expect freedom from the people who make a huge profit off of you being subordinate, uneducated, and turned into cheap wage labor. The problem is, like she said, as far as parental involvement, but when they've got you working overtime, because most people, especially in heavily densely populated black neighborhoods, not all but most, tend to have low skill, if not low financial jobs, they're burning the candle at both ends and exchanging their life for currency, aka time for money. That's why they focus so much on, I need these hours. And so you give them state sanctioned babysitting. And so by the time they're home, they're exhausted. They expect daddy government to have done a good job being stewards of their children. So for me, it's a situation where it's working exactly as they designed it to work. They're never going to get the funding unless we start making sure and holding all of these people in our communities who do have the money, who do have the resources, and say, hey, y'all got to pump some money in here for real. Because waiting on the government to do something that's only going to, what's the word I'm looking for, ruin their plans, is never going to happen.
A wise man once said, left wing, right wing, same bird,
I know
right?
that guy.
What we realize is that neither side really cares for us, because the Democrats know for sure that they have our votes. So how much work are you going to put in if you know that vote is guaranteed already? And the Republicans realize, well, damn, they're not going to vote for us anyway. So how much work are you going to actually put into it? Right? So for one, we obviously need organized plans. We need to have you leverage. You mentioned leverage earlier, but how do you get that, right? We got to get our finances up. We have to be organized, and we have to vote as a community, in all honesty, for any type of change to happen. So until we're ready to do that and get these finances in order, people start donating to where they need to donate. People start researching who these politicians are, locally as well, not just wait every 4 years for the presidential race, then we could start moving the needle.